Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
7:37 on WMAL. Brian Eman, Mary Catherine Ham for the Daily Caller. And this morning, Andrew Breitbart is here as well. John Dioso joins us now. He's from Rolling Stone, deputy managing editor, Rolling Stone magazine. They've come out with a list, the 100 greatest artists of all time, which is always a fun thing to talk about. John, good morning. I'm curious as to who came up with this list. How did you pare it down to the top 100?
Well, what we did was we got together a panel of experts, including editors, writers, longtime contributors to Rolling Stone, industry executives, and some of the great artists themselves. So what they all did was they all filled out a ballot, basically, who they believed were the top artists of all time, and then we tabulated the results, and this is what we came up with.
Now, is it based on actual quality? Is it based on popularity? I mean, was there a criteria there?
The criteria was just name the people who you believe are the most influential, most important, greatest artists in the rock and roll era, and it was very wide open.
All right.
And people just. So you vote with who you think is the greatest artist of all time. You also think who's your favorite artist and why. So that people, I think that gave people a wide enough berth to come up with what they consider to be a comprehensive list. And from all these experts' comprehensive lists, we came up with our comprehensive list.
John, are you getting any controversy? Are people upset about the list? What's the things that have been left out? Are people, who are aficionados angry at Rolling Stone right now for leaving their favorite band?
There will always be angry, and that's part of the fun, I guess, about this list is you put it out there and you say, this is it. These are the 100 greatest artists of all time. And, fans, or say a Rush fan will call or write an email, or a Kiss fan will, and unfortunately they did not make the list when we break this.
Because, John,
and they will be very
I will stalk you if Devo is not on.
Hundreds of letters about it.
Is Devo on the list?
They did not make the list.
Okay, you are going to be stalked by Andrew Breitbart.
Maybe 101, I don't know.
Well, do you have the list in front of you?
I do.
All right, because I only have the top 10, but let's do the top 25. Give me number 25.
Number 25 is Fats Domino.
Fats Domino, okay.
Boo.
Yeah, all right. I mean, for our generation, okay. 24?
24 is Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, okay. Once again, yeah.
Boy, listen.
Yeah, you guys are. You have no sense of history over here.
Number 23 is Bruce Springsteen.
All right, Springsteen only makes 23.
Poor guy.
See, I've seen Springsteen more than probably any other artist. And Springsteen was very influential in my life. Or Greetings from Asbury Park.
Absolutely.
That was probably the most influential album.
It's hard to. When you hear the top 10 and you've seen the top 10, it's like you can't really argue with those artists either. So then you've got to stretch it to 20. And then you've got to stretch that to 30. It's like, well, these are all so important, right? And then 22 is U2.
22 is U2. I think that should be a little higher, too. Yeah. All right, 21.
21 is Otis Redding.
Right. Yeah. Otis Redding's good. 20.
20 is Bo Diddley, another original rock and roll father.
See,
here's an interesting one.
He has a whole beat of his own.
U2, which has been around for
Wait. U2 does not have an actual beat named after them.
Would any of that, the hard rock stuff, would any of that stuff exist without Bo Diddley?
Exactly.
Okay, so this is about influence more than it is like popularity.
That's a big part of it. People, especially artists who voted in the list, and everybody else who studies it and writes about rock and roll and music, just looks back and say, well, who are the people that started it? So that is a big part of it. If you did it first, if you're a pioneer, I think you get extra points for that. Right. Not that there was any type of point system, but I'm sure that weighed on people's decision.
All right, so what are we at? We're at 19
now, 19,
right?
And 19, there's a perfect example. 19, not a popular band in its day, but one of the most influential of all time, the Velvet Underground, which is Lou Reed's original group. And, they didn't sell a lot of records in their day.
No.
But it was said that, they didn't sell as many records, but everybody who bought one started their own band. So, there wouldn't be a whole line of alternative music, punk rock, any of that stuff without Velvet Underground.
Okay, how about that? 18?
18 is Marvin Gaye.
Oh, man,
greatest singers of all time.
Absolutely.
So Motown is heavily, shown on this list. They have a lot of people on this list.
All right. 17?
17 is Muddy Waters, one of the great blues artists, possibly the greatest blues artist of all time, along with Howlin' Wolf, in my opinion. But Muddy Waters, far and away, one of the most influential people of all time, influenced so many rock and rollers, the Stones, Eric Clapton, and on.
All right, 16?
16, the man I consider to be the greatest singer of all time, Sam Cooke.
Yay, he's my favorite.
Sam Cooke is your favorite?
Oh my gosh, he's amazing. That's a voice like no other.
The voice will just blow you away.
Wow, you learned a lot about
the youngin' in the room is really respecting the older artists.
And all the influential people died like early. It's just it's depressing that their lives
let me
were.
just mention another thing: is that not only is it a list of the 100 greatest artists, but we also have some of those artists talking about their fellow artists, along with contemporary artists like Chris Martin from Coldplay writes the essay on U2. Dave Grohl talks about Led Zeppelin, who actually comes in at number 14, so let me skip ahead a little bit. So, yeah, that's one of the fun things about doing this list, is that not only do you learn about these artists, but you learn about the actual artists who are writing about them.
All right, so if Zeppelin's 14, who's 15?
15 is Stevie Wonder.
Oh, wow, yeah, absolutely. 13?
Yeah. 13 is Buddy Holly.
All right. Was Buddy Holly a little...
There's a lot of redundancy in the 50s.
And along with Chuck Berry, kind of introduced the template of how to write a rock and roll song.
All right, 12?
Number 12 is the Beach Boys.
Absolutely. You'd have to... Beach Boys. I would think Beach Boys would be top 10. 11?
Yeah. Number 11 is Bob Marley.
Absolutely. I'll buy that one. And then here we go with the top 10. Go ahead.
Number 10, Ray Charles.
Yes.
9?
Number 9 is Aretha Franklin, who topped the poll as the greatest singer of all time in Rolling Stone a few years ago.
The Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Little Richard is number 8?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the essay on Little Richard is written by Little Richard. Because who could explain the magnificence of Little Richard more than Little Richard himself?
Little Richard, Marvin Gaye versus Little Richard, to me, I mean, that's a laydown for Marvin Gaye. I could never put Little Richard above Marvin Gaye.
It just goes to influence again. And you think about Little Richard starting as one of the original, fathers of rock and roll. I would put it, if there was a Mount Rushmore of rock and roll, the early guys would be Elvis, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis. And Little Richard was such a direct influence on everyone, up to including the Beatles and Paul McCartney in particular. So I'm sure that that's one of the reasons why he placed so high, was that he's just held in that high regard as one of the originators.
All right, 7 is James Brown, 6 is Jimi Hendrix. I can totally buy that. All right, give us the top 5 quickly.
All right, number 5, Chuck Berry. Again, the original, he kind of came up with a template for rock and roll, not just writing songs, but also the rock and roll playing guitar. Right. Number 4 is the Rolling Stones.
Right.
Number 3 is Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah, number 2, Bob Dylan.
Understandable. And
the greatest songwriter of all time, hugely influential, of course. And number 1?
The Beatles.
The Beatles, of course. How could you argue with the Beatles?
Michael Jackson doesn't make the top 25, huh?
He did not.
Wow.
That is shocking. Now
he is on the list. He's down in the 30s.
It seems like an academic list more than a popularity one. The influence thing seems to be so distinct.
I think so. I think that really reflects where we are, and considering all of rock and roll and popular music history from the 50s till now. So the fact that it's 2011 really, I think it's reflecting everybody looking back. And who do you think are the most important people? Where the artists who've been around the longest have the longest time to make an impact on people and to really make that influence. If we put this together in another 20, 30 years, it may change. Michael Jackson may be in the top 10 or the top 5 even.
All right,
you never know.
Just for Andrew's sake, did Nirvana make the top 100?
No, not Nirvana.
I know, because I know you hate Nirvana.
You hate Nirvana?
I like that they're unplugged. They just ruined my alt stations. They took away from all my Smiths and The Cure.
Let me ruin your Friday and your weekend by saying that they made the top 30.
What about the Smiths and The Cure?
Oh, now you're hurting me. You're hurting me because they made my list, but they did not make this list of top 100.
Oh, wow.
The Cure? Wow.
All right, and
again, another 2 bands who I consider essential, and 2 of my favorite artists of all time. Maybe in 20 years they will make the list because they will have had that time to have made that much of a wider impact in the world at large.
All right, John, I know you got to run. Thanks for your time. It was a great list.
Being with you.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
John Dioso of Rolling Stone Magazine, top 100 influential artists of all time.